For eons, the Galactic Federation had maintained a pristine, ordered cosmos. Advanced civilizations, such as the luminary consensus, beings of pure light who optimized every atom, and the chronosynthetics, sentient machines who abhorred waste, had developed technologies of unparalleled efficiency. Their ships were self-repairing, their resources infinitely recyclable, and their waste streams non-existent. Any residual, unrecyclable, or genuinely dangerous byproducts of their advanced societies, such as unstable exotic matter, highly radioactive, isotopes, or remnants of ancient defunct technologies too complex to safely dismantle, were not simply disposed of. They were ejected. Flung into designated dead zones at the galactic fringe, vast light-year-spanning regions of the void where stellar phenomena were sparse, and the chance of interaction with habitable worlds was statistically zero. These dead zones were galactic junkyards, but they were pristine junkyards, untouched and uncontaminated. To the Federation, anything cast into the void was gone forever, effectively ceasing to exist. It was a perfect, elegant solution to the problem of waste. Then, humanity arrived. Humanity was a species of scavengers, improvisers, and, by galactic standards, inveterate hoarders. Our history was built on making do, on fixing what was broken, and on finding a million new uses for discarded relics. We were, to the Federation, a biologically chaotic species with an alarming tendency towards clutter. When the Federation made first contact, they were perplexed by humanity's fleets. Not sleek, uniform vessels, but a motley collection of ships, each bearing the scars of countless repairs, upgrades, and modifications. They were almost universally ugly. Ambassador Vinar of the Luminary Consensus, a shimmering column of pure light, addressed the human envoy, Captain Jax Scraps Reynolds. Humanity, your vessels. They are inefficient. They are patched, scarred, and aesthetically dissonant. Why do you not optimize your designs? Why do you retain such antiquated components? Jax, a man whose hands were perpetually stained with grease and whose smile was perpetually crooked, merely chuckled. Antiquated? Ambassador, every scar on our ships tells a story of a system that broke and we fixed it. Every antiquated component is something we pulled from a wreck and made useful again. We don't discard Vinar, we repurpose. Vinar's light pulsed with confusion. Repurpose? Such waste products are inefficient. They introduce unpredictable variables. They should be ejected. Jax's grin widened. Ejected, you say? Into what, exactly? That's when the Federation, with a mix of scientific curiosity and mild disgust, showed humanity the dead zones. Vast, empty stretches of space littered with the worthless refuse of a million perfected civilizations. Unstable exotic matter, highly radioactive isotopes, remnants of ancient, defunct technologies. To the Federation, it was the ultimate landfill. To humanity, it was a treasure trove. Jax Scraps Reynolds, upon seeing the projected maps of the dead zones, felt a thrill run down his spine that transcended mere greed. This wasn't just money. This was an opportunity, a chance to prove that humanity's unique brand of chaos, of ingenuity, of finding value where others saw none, was not a flaw, but a strength. You call this waste? Jax asked, his eyes gleaming. Ambassador, to us, this is a gold mine. You just found yourself the galaxy's newest junk dealers. Captain Jax Reynolds, now informally known as King Scraps among his burgeoning fleet, commanded the human reclamation fleet. These weren't warships, but heavily armored, highly modular vessels bristling with advanced tractor beams, precision-cutting lasers, and specialized containment fields. Their crews were a rough-and-tumble mix of engineers, scientists, pilots, and ex-miners, all specialists in making something out of nothing. Their operational area, the largest of the dead zones, aptly named the Ethel Debris Field. It was A desolate, dark expanse of space, punctuated by the ghostly hulks of ancient starships, the shimmering remnants of exotic matter containment fields, and the faint, unsettling glow of radioactive materials. To the luminary consensus, the Ethel, Deborah's field was a testament to galactic purity, a place where all unwanted elements were banished. To the chronosynthetics, it was an abomination of entropy, an inefficient collection of discarded matter. To humanity, it was simply work. All right, listen up, you glorious bastards and bastettes. Jax's voice boomed over the comms of the lead salvage vessel, the Rust Bucket. Scans show a Class 3 derelict, an old chronosynthetic research vessel. Might have some intact power conduits. Watch for unstable plasma pockets and the usual temporal eddies. Let's make some money. The human approach to salvaging baffled the Federation. They didn't just collect the refuse. They understood it. They took apart the chronosynthetics' advanced, self-repairing alloys, not to recycle them into raw materials, but to understand their unique molecular structure. They carefully extracted the luminary consensus's exotic matter, not to contain it, but to learn how to stabilize it and repurpose its immense energy. One particular find was a vast quantity of corrupted Chronos crystals, remnants of a failed chronosynthetic temporal experiment. To the chronosynthetics, these crystals were utterly useless, dangerous objects that caused localized time dilation and temporal paradoxes. They were to be avoided at all costs. To human engineer Dr. Lena Petrova, a brilliant theoretical physicist with a penchant for making things go boom, they were a puzzle. These crystals, they're not just corrupted, Jax, she reported, her eyes gleaming with scientific excitement. They're just operating on a different temporal harmonic. If we could stabilize that, we could tap into their temporal energy, maybe even build a localized temporal field manipulator. A what now? Jax asked, his brow furrowed. Basically, a way to make things go faster or slower in a small area, Lena explained, already sketching schematics on a data pad. Think of the applications: rapid growth for crops, accelerated repairs for ship hulls, even faster coffee brewing, Jax grinned. Faster coffee brewing, you say? Now that's what I call a game changer. All right, Lena, get your eggheads on it. Let's turn their trash into our treasure. The Federation watched with a mixture of confusion and growing apprehension. Humans weren't just clearing the dead zones. They were learning from them. They were reverse engineering discarded alien technology, finding uses for what the perfected races considered utterly worthless. Dr. Lena Petrova and her team of human scientists and engineers established the Temporal Refinery, a mobile space station constructed almost entirely from salvaged materials. Its purpose, to stabilize and process the volatile, corrupted Chronos crystals. The process was crude, messy, and by Federation standards, horrifyingly inefficient. Human-designed magnetic containment fields, powered by repurposed alien reactors, pulsed and hummed with barely contained energy. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the nervous energy of brilliant minds working on the edge of the impossible. "We're getting stable temporal fluxes in Chamber 7, a technician shouted, sweat beading on his brow. Temporal dilation is holding at 1.7 standard seconds per unit cycle. Excellent, Lena cheered, wiping a grease smudge from her cheek. Let's push it to 2.0. We need to see if we can maintain coherence for longer than a microsecond. The chronosynthetics, observing from a safe distance, were appalled. Their methods are barbaric, declared a chronosynthetic ambassador. They are manipulating highly unstable temporal fragments with inefficient organic-based tools. The risk of a cascading temporal anomaly is unacceptably high. We accept the risk, Ambassador, Jax Reynolds calmly replied, watching Lena's team from his command bridge. Because the reward is worth it. We learn more from 100 failed experiments than from 1,000,000 perfectly designed systems that never leave the drawing board. And learn they did. After countless near catastrophes, unexpected temporal paradoxes that briefly turned tools into dust and then back again, and more than a few scorched eyebrows, Lena's team succeeded. They refined the corrupted Chronos crystals into stable temporal coherence modules. These modules allowed humanity to create localized time fields. Farmers on remote colonies could accelerate crop growth, turning barren soil into verdant fields in a fraction of the time. Shipyards could rapidly age hull plating, strengthening it against stellar radiation. Medical teams could accelerate cell regeneration, healing grievous wounds in hours instead of days. The Federation was forced to acknowledge the utility. What they had deemed worthless waste had been turned into a powerful transformative technology by humanity's relentless ingenuity, but the true utility emerged from another, even more unlikely source. The ethyl debris field also contained vast quantities of exotic matter condensate, a highly unstable byproduct of luminary consensus energy generation. This condensate was so volatile that it would explode if exposed to any conventional energy field. It was the most dangerous junk in the entire dead zone. The luminary consensus specifically designated this as unrecoverable, a Federation official warned Jax. Any attempt to interact with it will result in a catastrophic cascade. It is fundamentally incompatible with any known energy field. Incompatible, huh? Jax mused, a mischievous glint in his eye. Lena, what about those temporal coherence modules of yours? If we could create a localized time-dilated field, could we stabilize the condensate before it reacts to our energy? Lena's eyes widened. It's theoretically possible. If we could slow down the reaction just enough, we could contain it. It would be like catching light in a jar. Good, Jax said with a determined nod. Because if we can figure out how to safely contain this unrecoverable stuff, we just found ourselves the ultimate power source, and we'll call it the Humanities Heart Reactor. The development of the Humanities Heart Reactor was the most dangerous undertaking the human reclamation fleet had ever attempted. The exotic matter condensate was incredibly volatile, and the smallest miscalculation in the temporal field could result in a localized event that would dwarf a supernova. Dr. Lena Petrova's temporal refinery, now heavily shielded and equipped, with multiple layers of fail-safes, all, of course, salvaged from other discarded alien technologies, became the focal point of humanity's ambition. Jax Reynolds oversaw the operation personally, his hands-on experience as a junk dealer invaluable for improvising solutions to unforeseen problems. Temporal field holding at 3.2 seconds per unit cycle, a technician called out, his voice strained. Condensate injection beginning. A shimmering, impossibly dense cloud of exotic matter pulsed into the containment chamber. It immediately began to react, its internal energies attempting to unravel. But the surrounding temporal field, meticulously controlled by Lena's team, slowed the process down, giving the engineered containment fields time to respond. The luminary consensus, observing from afar, were in a state of utter disbelief. They are attempting to stabilize the unstable condensate with temporal manipulation, Ambassador Vanar projected, his light wavering with incredulity. That is an inefficient and incredibly dangerous cross-disciplinary approach. The probability of success is infinitesimal. Tell that to our coffee, Ambassador, Jax muttered under his breath, watching the volatile readings. And to our power grids. After weeks of nerve-wracking adjustments, near catastrophes that scorched the hull of the temporal refinery, and countless iterations, Lena's team achieved the impossible. They stabilized the exotic matter condensate, containing its immense, chaotic energy within a controlled temporal field. The Humanities Heart Reactor was born. It was not elegant. It was loud. It pulsed with visible energy, and it required constant hands-on human maintenance. But it generated unimaginable amounts of clean, stable power. A single Humanities Heart Reactor could power an entire human colony for centuries. Suddenly, humanity, the species of junk dealers, became the galaxy's unexpected saviors. At the same time, the humanity's heart reactor was being perfected. The Galactic Federation was facing a burgeoning energy crisis. One of their primary power sources, the stellar core converters, ancient and perfected technologies, were mysteriously failing across multiple systems. The converters, designed for flawless efficiency, had no redundancies, no backup systems, and no easy repair protocols. Entire star systems faced power blackouts, their perfect optimized societies slowly grinding to a halt. Billions of Federation citizens, accustomed to effortless energy, faced a return to scarcity. The luminary consensus, dependent on their converters, faced collapse. The chronosynthetics, whose vast data networks required constant power, began to experience system failures. Desperation spread through the Federation. Then Jax Reynolds made an offer. "You need power? We got power. It's not pretty. It's a bit loud. But it works. And it's made entirely from your waste." The offer of the humanity's heart reactor was met with mixed reactions. The luminary consensus, in their desperation, accepted. The chronosynthetics, initially reluctant due to the inefficiency and imperfection of human technology, were forced to comply as their systems failed. Humanity, the junk dealers, found themselves indispensable. They deployed fleets of their salvage vessels, now acting as mobile power plants, bringing the humanity's heart reactors to struggling Federation systems. The deployment was a chaotic, messy affair. Human engineers, covered in grease, worked tirelessly to integrate the noisy, pulsing reactors into the Federation's pristine, silent power grids. It was a clash of cultures, human improvisation against alien perfection. "Your energy conduits are suboptimal, human," a luminary consensus official projected, its light wavering as a human engineer wrestled with a fused plasma conduit. "They introduce unnecessary resistance." "Yeah, well, your optimal conduits are currently dead, Sparky," the engineer retorted, wiping sweat from his brow. "This is how we fix things when they're actually broken, not just theoretically flawed." The humanity's heart reactors provided stable, abundant power, bringing light and life back to struggling Federation worlds. But it came at a cost that was invisible to the Federation. Humanity wasn't just fixing a problem, they were exposing a fundamental flaw in the Federation's philosophy: the illusion of no cost. The Federation had grown accustomed to a universe without waste, without failure, without compromise. They believed their perfection shielded them from all consequences. But humanity, the species of junk dealers, knew that everything had a cost. The waste they had ejected into the dead zones wasn't truly gone, it was simply out of sight. The cost of their perfection was passed on to the void, and now humanity was simply bringing those costs back. Jax Reynolds, now a respected, if still slightly uncouth, figure in the Galactic Federation, found himself not just a salvage operator, but a philosopher. "You called it waste because you didn't want to see it," Jax explained to a gathering of Federation dignitaries. "You called it unrecoverable because you didn't want to figure out how to recover it. You built a perfect, pristine galaxy, but you forgot that even perfection has to shed skin sometimes. And that skin, that's where we found our future." The Federation was forced into a profound galactic reckoning. They realized that their reliance on perfect, unrepairable systems, their aversion to waste, and their dismissal of anything deemed inefficient had made them fragile. Humanity's chaotic, adaptive, and endlessly resourceful approach had saved them. The energy crisis was resolved thanks to humanity's junk reactors. But the profound lessons learned from the crisis irrevocably changed the Galactic Federation. The luminary consensus began to design systems with redundancies and repair protocols, acknowledging that even perfect technology could fail. The chronosynthetics established vast research divisions dedicated to adaptive technology and salvage engineering, learning to find value in what they had once dismissed as entropy. Humanity, the junk dealers, became the architects of a new galactic economy. The dead zones, once pristine landfills, became bustling centers of human ingenuity. Alien civilizations now paid humanity handsomely to analyze their waste products, to salvage their unrecoverable failures, and to teach them the art of repurposing. Jax. Reynolds, once a rough-and-tumble junk dealer, was now the head of the Galactic Reclamation Authority, a Federation-sanctioned organization dedicated to sustainable resource management and adaptive technology. His fleet, once a motley collection of battered vessels, was now a respected and indispensable force in the galaxy, still patched and scarred, but each bearing the pride of a species that found its greatest strength in what others discarded. The Federation, once defined by its pristine order, was now a more dynamic, vibrant, and ultimately more resilient place. They learned that true progress wasn't about avoiding flaws, but about understanding them, embracing them, and finding new value in them. Years passed. Jax King Scraps Reynolds, his face deeply lined with age but his eyes still gleaming with the mischievous glint of a born scavenger, remained a revered figure. He was known as the First Scraps, the one who had taught a perfect galaxy the value of imperfection. His original vessel, the Rust Bucket, was now a museum piece, preserved. As a testament to human ingenuity, the galaxy was a different place. The sense of pristine, sterile order had vanished, replaced by a vibrant, diverse embrace of adaptive engineering. New civilizations, once afraid of failure, now saw it as a learning opportunity. The ultimate lesson of humanity's journey was not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most technologically advanced. It was about our unique capacity for seeing potential where others saw none, for improvising solutions from the most unlikely materials, and for our unwavering belief that nothing was truly waste if you just looked at it hard enough. We were the species that could take the discarded failures of 1,000,000 perfected civilizations and build a new, stronger future from them. Jax, in his final address to the newly formed Galactic Resource and Innovation Council, spoke not of technology, but of spirit. The universe is an infinite well of possibility, he stated, his voice resonating with the quiet authority of one who had literally built a new economy from discarded parts. And just like a broken piece of tech, if you look at a problem from enough angles, if you're willing to get your hands dirty, and if you never, ever give up on finding a new use for something, you'll always find the answer. Because in every piece of junk, in every failure, in every discarded idea, lies the potential for something new, something better, something truly human. The junk dealers, once a derogatory term, was now a galactic philosophy, a badge of honor for any species willing to roll up its sleeves and find the hidden value in the forgotten. They were the unsung heroes who ensured that the galaxy, despite its vastness, remained a place where innovation was born from necessity, where waste became treasure, and where even the most perfect civilizations could find salvation in the beautiful, chaotic ingenuity of humanity, the junk dealers.